Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's going on, Tom? How you doing?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty well. Tonight, we are going to be discussing The Mad King Rises. We're going to be doing our review of Book 4 of the Dawnbringers, and this is
And I finally get to weigh in.
Yeah,
like I finally get to weigh in on FEC. Like I didn't get to be here for the show. Thanks, Vince. But you're gonna hear my thoughts on FEC tonight. So
you could have been here.
Hey, shush.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the book tonight. Break it down. It's an interesting book. It's kind of very different than the rest of them have been.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into it. But first, of course, as always, the news.
How about that rumor engine?
Yeah. How about you bang around near your mic more? Yeah. It's a gross thing I don't want to look at. I don't know what it is.
I mean, is it really that bad?
Yeah, your sound got weird. Why did your sound get weird? Your sound was fine. What did you do?
How about now? Is it any better?
Yes, and stop hitting whatever's near your microphone on your laptop. Just stop bumping
there may have been magic cards on it.
You are literally killing me. I mean that exactly as I said it. I don't know what this is, and it's completely gross, and I don't like it, and I'm not going to look at it. Like, I'm literally not looking at it on screen because it physically bothers me.
You're such a child with these like visual impairment things.
I'm sorry.
Like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, it looks great. I'm interested at least. Like, yes, it's gross. There are gross things. It looks fleshy, obviously. It's a little bit veiny. There's some ripping and tearing going on, I think, on that skin. Not sure what's going on there. It looks interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
You have my attention, GW.
Neat. Next thing. Okay, there. Good. I got that gross picture out of here. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the next news item.
I mean, there's not really any other news other than the Cities of Sigmar FEC like Spearhead boxes.
Sure, that's fine.
Like, which we knew this was coming, sure. Right? So Spearhead, for those that don't know, 40K had something similar. It's kind of like Vanguard, only hypothetically they are balanced against one another. So they're similar equivalent points or something, and they're meant to be kind of played out of the box or out of the gate. Why this is relevant is because GW did this with 40K. Was it Combat Patrol?
Yeah, Combat Patrol, correct.
Yeah, 40K's is Combat Patrol. And what's interesting is that, like, you guys have heard me talk about my excitement regarding the Storm,
the magazine thing.
The magazine thing, Hatchet's Stormbringer magazine, for AOS. Well, what they're doing is they've just announced for 40K a Combat Patrol version where basically every month you're getting one of these Combat Patrols in addition to the other stuff in the magazine for 40K. And so rather than being focused on like 2 armies with some supplemental sprinklings like they have been the last 2 seasons, what Hatchet is doing is that basically every month you're getting a different Combat Patrol, and so you're getting like chunks of a bunch of different armies. And so we can only assume in 2.5 years, we'll see something similar for AOS. So yeah, sure. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Bronumate said, have we had Spearhead confirmed as AOS Combat Patrol? We're all just assuming it. I mean, we're all just assuming it, but like this isn't a logical leap. One, Combat Patrol was meant to be the pre-con commander MTG equivalent for 40K, where you could just pick up this box, they could direct you to the box, they find the one that looks like it has pretty pictures to you, which one looks cool, take that, paint that, play it against your friends who have the same box, and it's going to be a relatively balanced experience, right? That was the promise. Now, how much it delivered on that, that's, whatever. But, I mean, it's fine. Like, again, when you're all new players, it doesn't matter. You're all just getting stuff wrong. Most of the game's decided by your dumb play mistakes, not the points in the box. Okay? Sure. Like, I could hand a new Magic player my most powerful commander deck and then whip them with my weakest one. Okay?
Yeah, like,
it's not...
Of course.
That's just not how the world works. Like, so it doesn't matter how... like, these need to be roughly balanced, not precisely balanced, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the key is it's an introductory play product. Like that's the big deal here.
It's an
like
on-road,
that's the actual
which is what
headline.
matters. Yeah.
Yes.
And that stuff's really important because the reality is they have just lacked this sort of a thing. I didn't have my other light on. I apologize, everyone. They've just lacked this product. And there hasn't been an easy on-road. So, will it manifest as sort of a full-fledged combat patrol? Probably. Where they're all meant to be played against each other. But even if it doesn't, it's still an easier on-road. The idea is these are playable boxes. My real hope is that whatever the rules are with this, or whatever the rules are with with like playing at lower points in 4.0, that it's actually playable, that the game is playable at a lower points value. That's the actual thing I want to see. So
yeah, you're saying generating a relatively balanced play experience.
Yeah, because right now I don't think the game really works below 1,500 points. I think that's pretty much where the game actually functions. Like if you play 1,000 points, it works when you're playing doubles.
Right, so which there's actually 2,000 on the table. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like AOS works fine at 1,500. It's fine. But that's because that's just close enough to the 2,000. You're still basically playing the army. You just don't have all the toys. Right.
Right. You're generally missing a hammer.
Yeah, sure. So like, or some synergy or whatever, right? The final piece of the puzzle. Yep. So who knows? I hope we're going to continue to see these, like when they launch AOS 4th, my assumption is there's going to be a whole rollout of a bunch of these or something if they can. And there you go, go nuts. So I guess time will tell. All right, cool. I think that's really all the news this week. It is it is a very light news week, and that's fine. Hey, yeah, that's okay. Very good. So, let's move on. Let's talk about some pick of the week. Tom, what do you want to share with everybody?
What have I been watching this week?
It's so funny. Like you had to know this was coming.
I know. I blanked on it. Let's see. Doom and Darkness has had a couple videos. He's actually like back and he's making some videos.
He's in the chat, as a matter of fact.
He is in the chat.
He was a
so 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, he did a short video soliciting like, does AOS suck or not? And then did a not scientific assessment of the responses of that.
Sure.
Scientific. And it was a wonderful poll to the community because he got like 100 some responses, like robust engagement, reflections. And one of the fascinating things about it was that in general, most people voiced they love AOS, but all of the complaints almost always center around two things: the GHB, and battle tactics and grand strats.
Yep.
Amazing. Like, and so I don't think that anyways, I found the video interesting. I found the video was certainly in alignment with where we've been at, or what we've been feeling, just to watch the community respond similarly. So I say that just to say, go check it out. It's a great video. It's always good to see Doom making content.
Agreed completely. For myself, my pick of the week is going to be our good old buddy Heyo, specifically the rebroadcast of Heyo's Twitch streams, Heyo Plus. There is a specific video link down below. It's actually part 3 in an ongoing series. And it's part 3 of God knows how many parts. Probably something like 5 or 6 is what it'll end up being. But that is the Heyo's hot takes. So he polled basically people on Twitter and in Discord and everything like that for the hottest of hot takes. And then SJ Arcade put them all together in a preso for him to sort of react to. And boy, oh boy, is there a lot of fun discussion in that. Like it's some of them aren't that hot. Some of them are quite tepid takes. But nonetheless, some of them are fiery lava. So all in all, just great. Heyo is very good at reacting to those sorts of things. So do check it out. It is linked down below. And just a lot of fun. Tom, I think you'd really like it if you haven't watched it yet.
I haven't. I participated in the thread, so I am sure that he is responding to one of my hot takes in there.
What was your hot take?
I'd have to go look. I don't remember. It was probably like it was along the painting meta, because it stirred up a bunch of folks on Twitter that I think it was along the lines of the hobby aspect of the game, like painting and soft scores maybe are essential to the character of the type of community that we have, and to remove it
yes,
is
I
to
remember this. I remember this
rip the heart
discussion
out of the
evolving on
community.
Twitter. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't think he's got to
there
that
it
one
is.
yet, but hopefully we'll get
So
to it.
it's definitely on there, and it definitely stirred up some folks on
Well, there was
on
already
the
many
Twitter.
hot takes in the opposite direction of people talking about how they're painting. You shouldn't have to paint and all this stuff. Like people trying to absolve themselves from sin. Okay, so Void Spark 77, Vince Ventrell, any tips on scratch building a Fusil Meor, the dude with the guy with the gun in the crow's nest,
the ogre?
Yeah. I've got the ogre I want to use, and I just need the crow's nest to attach to him. I mean, sure, you scratch build it. It's simple as like the PVC sort of like pipes you can get basically, or something like that to make the piece of wood, score it up, build the crow's nest out of similar plasticard or something. Like you can get plasticard pipes, you can get plasticard stuff like that, make it into shape, throw shields and stuff all over it to make it look, like throw Cities of Sigmar shields all over it, put a little flag in the middle, stand any random Cities of Sigmar gunner in it. There you go, good to go.
Nope, that's wrong answer. You buy an Iron Blaster. Let's start there.
No, he's asking. He already has an ogre. He's asking for how to do
this
thing.
And then you use the chariot as the howdah on top, because it has little walls and everything. So you could build that, and then you just get like a rifleman. There you go, done. Hobby cheating with Tom.
That
done.
Completely would not work in any way, shape, or form what you've just described. Okay,
because he has the little reins, and so he could like be holding on the backpack. You just got to readjust the arms. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I know somebody in our audience is going to do that. What I've
Sure.
just described, and it's going to be amazing.
Bruno says the chat was kind of mad about Tom's take. Nice. He must have reviewed it on the most recent live show, but it hasn't tripped over to Heyo.
Oh, I'm sure. I am sure that people
didn't get
were
to
mad
catch
about
his most
my
recent
take.
stream or whatever. So yeah, very nice.
Delightful.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It is indeed. Okay. Cool. Very good. Well, let's talk about some hobby time, shall we? Tom, what you been working on, man? What's been on your desk?
I have a commission that I'm working on right now. As I'm waiting for all the rest of my FEC to get mailed to me. Namely, Gormain and Usharan and all of the rest of those kits that are coming. So it drops, I believe, this Saturday, right? Is when that so it should be shipping soon is the answer. So I'm working on some commission
Came out last
stuff
Saturday, but okay, sure.
Yeah, whatever. It should be showing up in my mailbox soon. Sure. I don't know when. It'll be fine. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I am waiting for the rest of my FEC stuff, and then I need to figure out what my new list is going to be. Okay. But all of that is kind of on hold as we've awaited. For those that are playing Warhammer Weekly, Bingo, Streamer, AOS Bingo, as we're waiting on the War Scroll, I haven't been able, I recognize that FEC is likely to be changing some. And so the list that I have been running, I'm not, I recognize I will not be able to continue to run at the events.
Yeah, I suppose that's a news item we didn't mention is day 543, still waiting on that battle scroll, but that's fine. I suppose it will like a wizard. It's neither late nor early. I guess it arrives when it's ready. So I suppose
no, it's definitely late. You can shut your mouth. It is definitely late, and they need to deliver it soon. That's all. I mean,
how long did Gandalf take to get back to the Shire after he was like, "Hey, matter. Keep it secret, keep it safe"? That was like 4 years. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he was late. A lot happened at that time. What happened if he had gotten there earlier? Then they definitely wouldn't have had to worry about the Nazgul and the Ringwraiths chasing him down. That's all I'm saying.
I guess it would have been a different story.
It would have been.
So I mean, I have to imagine it's any day now. Usually, if these things follow suit, it will be tomorrow morning, because they always drop it the day after our show.
What I'll say is this: they literally said on Facebook it's dropping this week when somebody brought it up on Monday. Like they said it on Facebook in a response. It is coming this week.
Yeah.
So now whether we can believe them or not, that's a whole nother, that's a whole other thing. But it is supposed to be dropping this week.
Sure. Well, I suppose we'll all read it tomorrow and determine it together and not be able to talk about it until next week, as is usually the case. All right. Cool. My hobby time has been a couple different things. So first off, I'm going to share a picture with everybody. Thought it was rather in line with tonight. So this is my Usharon. He's up on screen. So this was my most recent video. This is him painted here and all done with his conversion to stand him more upright, as a king should be, not hunched over like some weird little goblin. Lots of people in the comments of the video couldn't believe I didn't like the sculpt. Yep, I didn't. I like the sculpt, I just don't like the composition of it. The sculpt itself is impeccable, although his head's too small. You don't see that his head's too small until you reshape him like this, and you realize he's got to sit now on shoulders and not have, huge crap next to him, right? Yep. But his head is too small. It's definitely not the correct size. But this was a fun crafting project. There's lots of things about it I don't like that I don't think came out very well, but it was still fun to do, and I learned a lot. And I like, if people like the normal sculpt, I'm not going to yuck their yum. Go ahead, like the normal one. You're free to. I am not telling you what to like or dislike. But I prefer the art where he's big and up and rearing and stuff like that. And so I decided to change it. So that's been part of my project to finish that up. And then obviously the video came out this week. So, in the end, I want people to be empowered to make their sculpts their own. And if they don't like them, then I want them to feel like it's okay. You can change them because it is doable. Even huge, crazy resculpts like this, which was huge parts of this model just didn't exist. And I had to cut it from whole cloth. His entire back is completely sculpted. All of the center of his torso is completely sculpted. The entire backs of his legs. None of that stuff exists, Tom, because when he's all hunched, none of it is actually there. Yeah. So.
Yep. I just wouldn't have done that.
Sure. I mean, my point was to pick something truly insane for everybody to try to show that you really can do these things, right? You can. And to give people the techniques to change things if they want to by picking the most outrageous conversion I possibly ever could, right? This is truly as crazy as one could possibly get.
Well, I look forward to building him as he's supposed to be,
which is fine. Again, if you like the base one, I'm here for you, man. I'm glad that they delivered something you like. That's good. That's a good thing. It's awesome to have things you enjoy. I'm just saying I didn't, because I didn't like the composition. That's all. But anyway, I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum, but this is a fun project. I like how he came out ultimately, and it's neat to have. Plus, the fun part about converting him is it's neat to have the only version of a thing. Also, I put the little guy on there, Tom. Did you catch the little guy down by there? His little attendant. I've got his little boy down there too, because he once I took away that guy's tactical rock, he fit perfectly onto the stairs. It's his exact stance is foot, axe. They all met the 3 stairs in a row, and I was like, what is this but the hand of fate, right? Yeah, I mean, it was, so I wanted to give him, plus, once he stands up, there's just his base was way too big for him once he's standing, because when he's all hunched, his cloak is all spread out, he's taking up a ton of this base, right?
Yep.
But once I got him up off the base, it was just way too much base for way too little guy when it was just his 2 little feet. on it, so I had to get somebody else on there to kind of break it up. So there you go. Plus, that guy's kind of trash, and I would never use him anyway, so I didn't mind using that model as just like base adornment. So that's fine.
Amazing.
So there you go. My other hobby time, once I finish that guy up, has been spent on this fellow right here. Yeah, I don't have a picture of him yet, but he's right here. It's the new Tomb King guy from the Old World box set. I really like this new Tomb King, and although you're not going to be able to see it, I'm working on a bunch of...
That's the new foot king?
Yeah. You can put him on the big dragon, but I'm not. Yeah, this guy's pretty cool. And I just... I wanted to work on my non-metallic copper. And so I got out a bunch of paints and messed around and found a recipe I quite like. And then I decided to do all of it in non-metallic copper and like really high quality stuff, because the best way you can fix a thing is, or learn a thing or practice a thing or whatever you want to say, get better at a thing, is just by doing it over and 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 over again. And that's certainly what this guy will require, because there's a lot of little metal on him. Right now I have like his weapon done and the top of his head and stuff like that. So that'll be a video in the future at some point. So look for that. Cool. So that's been my hobby time. Very, very busy. It's good to be back home and actually able to work on some hobby over the weekend and such. Okay. Cool. That's as good as it's going to get, Charles. Like if I push it up here, it's just going to get blasted by this light that's right here, man. I'm not showing it because I'm scared of showing you something, because this is nothing. That's what's going to happen, man. So at any rate, hey, Tom.
Yep.
Did you know that the Mad King is rising? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I heard about this guy? I have heard of the good news.
Have you heard the good news of Usharon? Yeah. So, Dawnbringers Book 4, The Mad King Rises. By the way, if you haven't hit like yet, hit like. Hit like for our crazy little friend here, our newest entry in the Mortar, in the Mortar group. Whatever you think of him, he is a cool entry in the story. I'll say that. Let's talk overview. This is well, not yet. Just slow your roll. Everybody's very excited. We'll get there when we get there. We could talk about the book overview first.
Okay.
So, first off, this is a fully death-focused Dawnbringers book. Okay. This really didn't introduce as much new content as some of the other books for like matched play. But it did introduce 6 new regiments of renown, which I hate, and 1 new army of renown, which I love. And that's not anything about these regiments of renown. I just hate regiments of renown in general. Because I don't like taking 700 points of some other army in my army. That's it. I'm interested in armies for those armies. I hate soup. I hate bringing in other crap for like no good reason. So
are you telling me that we better be prepared? Because like, what happens if that's the new ally system? Like, are you just going to be disappointed for the next edition?
No, I just won't use them. Like, I continue to not use them now. Like, I could have put the dumb goblins in my Sons of Behemoth army. Okay. And it's certainly a much stronger army with like 3 megas and that horde of little idiots. Okay.
Right.
But I'm not going to do it because I didn't get into I play a giant army game to run 20 idiots, 20 tiny little goblins. Like, I'm not interested in random other forces joining my force. If it's something that appeals to you and you like it, cool. And a Regiments of Renown system is a much more balanced way to do allies. So I would be happy to chuck allies just like off the roof. Okay. Like, I can just right off the roof. Okay. And so like as a system, this is better. I just don't like it in general. I'm making a statement about me. Vince, does not. If I play an army, I want to play that army, and that should always be the best way to play that army competitively.
Is not with allies?
Not with allies. If taking some other army in your army ever makes it better, they've messed up. Period. Full stop. That's it. If you want to make a fun choice, right, because it's like your narrative that this thing is with this thing, cool. Go for it. Like, do it. Okay? But from a purely balanced perspective, the most potent choice should always be what's in your book. Taking other crap and introducing it should always be weaker. Period. That's it. It's a very simple principle. Right? So, like, I don't know how else more simply to put it. And every time we get these, there ends up being something in there that's broken. That's what it comes down to. There ends up being, and like, that's why I'd love allies to go away too, because they're always, allies are never used unless they're bent. Right? That's it. So, like, outside of a few interesting coalition cases where, like, the sort of the chaos god armies bringing in S2D units or whatever, fine, right? Like, I'm okay with that kind of stuff because those really are one army. Like, at many points in time, those have just been literally one book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is just, like, our excuse to do that. But, like, rando having this X join Y and Z showing up here, you know, I hate it. I hate it. Okay. But even though this is a little lighter on match play, on the nice side, there's actually some really cool stuff in here. For example, Tom, there is new Triumph and Treachery expansion in here with 4 new battle plans and a special Triumph and Treachery game that's actually meant to have a GM. Like there has to be a 5th person who's the game master, who is Nagash. That's who you're playing. Because the 4 players are each playing a Mortar, vying for your favor, and you like can curry and grant favor to each of them, and they have to like, you know, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's a fun little thing. I don't know, you're gonna have 5 people at the club to pull it off, but it still seems like a cool thing. Like, I'm glad they did this kind of stuff. The regular TNT is good. My only regret about the regular Triumph and Treachery, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later on, is that there's only 4 battle plans. I think we should have went to a full 6. So okay. There you go. And there's also a good sized Path to Glory section, which we will not be talking about. But if you're into it, it's here. So there you go. Peppo says, so you're saying you didn't like Kronspine being the best choice for multiple armies at multiple points. You got it, Peppo. You know me. Boy, excuse me. I'm sorry, everybody. Yeah, like I despise that kind of crap. So that's the book overview, Tom. Now, rule of cool wargaming. But Vince, is that a game issue or the player-based issue? Certain players not being able to control themselves and only using bent units or in bent ways. It's the game issue. It's the game issue. People follow incentives. Okay? If you set up any system, if you create incentives that incent people toward bad behavior, they will conduct themselves accordingly. They will do it. Okay? Yes. Not all, not every time, but on the whole, you will raise the percentage of bad behavior. That is true for all systems in life, and game systems in particular. Okay? Mm-hmm. Especially game systems where the stakes are much lower, where there isn't really any moral or ethical reasoning not to do it other than you don't want to be a jerk to your friends. Right? And the social contract is all that's stopping you. Yeah. So, you know, if it incents you toward bad behavior, like, it takes quite a powerful contradictory force to then act against that. Like, incredibly powerful social pressures have to be there to act against that. And in general, those just aren't there. It's something as diffuse and large as like a war game played at this scale. So there you go. Any thoughts, Tom, from you on the high level of everything?
No. I mean, I think in general I agree with your assessment. that, like people will often like lean towards the, the weakest design, so to say.
Yep. I mean,
Is
water will
maybe how
flow towards the cracks, right? It will find the cracks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And that's not players' faults. Like, to
No.
be very clear, like that's just simply that's how things work.
Yep. Yes, exactly, Peppo. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. Cool. Hey, everybody, guess what? It's story time. That's right, everybody. It's story time. Gotcha. You thought we weren't going to do it. We're going to do it. It's story time. Story time, story time. Settle in while Vince poorly explains to you the story that happens in book 4 of Dawnbringers. I've got my notes right here. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So, book 4, The Mad King Rises. What's going on here? Okay. Well, we pick up with our 2 beaten, broken Dawnbringer crusades. Tom, you remember one of them is going through Gairan, and one of them is going through Akshi, and both have encountered many challenges along the way. Both are hurting. Okay? We're going to start in Gairan this time. Okay? Now, if you remember, Tom, our brave Gairanian crusade, they have escaped the destruction of Fort Gardas at the hands of Broad and the Mega Gargants, right, through the help of some Stormcast and Sylvaneth, right? They made their way north and they ran afoul of some Nurgle forces and they fought some War Clan stuff, right? All sorts of things happening. And only through their combined sort of the allies, and, Dryka showed up and all this other stuff, did they survive all of this, right? Now, as we begin our story, though, we, the Sylvaneth, they're gone. They pissed off. Okay, they're like, the hunt continues. We must go. We've fulfilled our role in this story, and now it is time for us to leave. And so, Belthanos hops off on his little bug. Okay,
yep, that checks out. They have fulfilled their purpose.
Yeah, they fulfilled their story purpose, and he's like, I must go now, for I have no more point in this story. And the rest of the Stormcast were all like, all right, peace. We out. Don't worry, though. I'm sure you'll meet more of us soon. We're everywhere here, apparently. We're just everywhere. Okay? So they're gone. Now, now, it's important to say that when the Sylvaneth left, a bunch of the, Jade mages and people like that, a bunch of people had started giving into another cult. What is it with cults and these humans, okay?
It's a thing.
It is a thing, yes. Why did my focus suddenly get weird? I don't know what's going on there. Okay. So, at any rate, they took a bunch of that crusade with them. Okay? Who all went and, joined the wild hunt, and they're out now, just hopping around doing crazy stuff. Okay, that's daubing themselves with blood and wearing furs and just stuff like that. So it's weakened,
as one does.
Yep, sure. Now, importantly, this particular thing, if you remember, is led by a woman named Marshall Thorian, and she comes from a long order of Jade mages, right, who were deeply connected to the Sylvaneth. And at the end of the last story, she had awoken some of her power, and it started transmuting her. Okay, she's changing. Okay. So she's become known as the Dame of Leaves. All right, that's because she's green, and humans are not very creative. So that was the best name they could come up with. On short order. If somebody started calling me the Duke of Leaves, I'd be like, go back. You got to find it. That's a first take.
Try it again.
Try harder. Okay, we can do better. Okay. If they called me the Dame of Leaves, I'd be pretty down with that. That sounds pretty dope if it was referring to me. But for this character, we can do better. Okay. She's an interesting character. It's funny because, as usual, a few of these characters, they don't get a lot of screen time, but they actually come out pretty interesting. So anyways, they're marching forward. They're leaving behind Viridia or whatever, the big plane they're on with all the forests and stuff. And they're marching for the neck, which the funniest thing in the world, Tom, is when you read the story, they say the neck. like 5,000 times. Okay.
Amazing.
They're in the neck. The neck was confusing. The neck had them. They were lost in the neck. And I'm like, boy, I wish we hadn't named it that now, huh? Now we have to see that in print 500 times. That sounds really dumb. Anyways, they march for the neck. And at the root of the neck, you might call it the collar. Okay. At the collar, they run into a giant bone wall. Like a big giant wall. Basically, they run into that piece of terrain that the studio built for OBR that everybody wishes they would make. And like every time they use it in an article, they're like, is that the new piece of OBR terrain coming? That's so dope. And it's like, nope. That's just the people in the studio doing a cool thing that will never be released. Stop it. Dash your hopes against the rocks now. Okay.
Why do they hate us?
Yeah. But they run into that. You know what I'm talking about, Tom.
I do. I do. I would be the first in line to buy it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like huge and long, right? It runs, as I said, it's a collar. It runs the whole length of the neck. Man, it's like, you might call it like the turtleneck, perhaps. Okay, so they're wearing a bone turtleneck.
Sure.
And
check it out.
Yeah. And there's like some bored OBR guy up top who's like, stop. You can't go any farther. Our Lord has decreed that no one's allowed past this wall. You can't go to the neck. The neck is ours. You can turn around. You can go home. We mean you no harm. In fact, if you want, you can just settle right here. If you want to build a city right here, we'll give you 100 years of not paying the tithe. So if you just feel like here's where you want to settle, we'll keep you safe from the north, and in 100 years we'll collect our first tithe. But you get 100 years to build your city up. I would have just been like, you know what, this dude sounds like a pretty good offer. This has been a pretty crappy trip. Let's just call it here, guys. What do you think? This seems good? This seems good. Like, yeah, why not? Let's go. Okay? I'm pretty sure this is where Sigmar was telling us to go. All right?
Amazing.
Because they're not walking anywhere in particular. They're just like,
yes,
just indeed. Go there, that direction. Part of the challenge I have reading this story is our protagonists are stupid.
That's not how you pronounce that.
Of course it is. They are dumb, Tom. I cannot get behind any of the humans because what they are doing is dumb. They are consistently the only people with no idea what's going on. Okay? They're just wandering through the wilderness, surprised at every turn, never a clue as to what magical ephemera is around them, and bewitching them and breaking their minds. Like, every other paragraph is like, then they were bewitched by this, then they were led astray by this, then they were turned mad by this. It's every 5 seconds. Something. Okay? And like, everybody who shows up in the story to help them is like, here's what's really going on. Let me tell you. And everybody else knows. Okay? They are the dumbest, most worthless, most meandering, most pointless, least characterful main characters I've ever seen in a story. It is ridiculous. Okay?
Impressive.
They are consistently... It is very hard to be behind somebody this dumb. Okay? And I know it's like, somebody's going to come at me in the comments and be like, but Vince, that's the whole point. They're like humans surviving in a world where everything is stronger and better and tougher than them. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But in a world of monsters, if that's the story of survival, the humans win by getting smart. That's how that story goes. They build technology. They recruit Hellboy and then learn a bunch of science and dark mystical occults, right? Like, you're Batman and you learn all of it, so none of it surprises you, right? Like, they're all gods and monsters, but you have kryptonite and artificial shark repellent and everything else you could ever want, right? Like, humans are resourceful and smart and clever, right? And outthink all their opponents. But here, they're the dumbest ones. Okay? So there's no reason for them to survive. Basically, they're all just you're watching people slowly die. for no good purpose.
Okay.
That's it. That's the story. Okay. Now, I'm not actually going to stop there, but like I could just sum up the rest of this for you. Idiots slowly die doing something they shouldn't do, bewitched, bewildered, and betwixt by forces far beyond their comprehension that they had no business getting involved with. That's the story.
Classy.
Yeah. By book 4, it's shocking that this is still going on. Okay. But it is. At any rate, back to the Bone Legion guy, who makes a perfectly reasonable offer, right? And they're like, nah, we ain't about that life. We got to keep going through this.
They'll never even pay it, right?
Like, no, everybody there would be dead by the time the first tithe was collected, right? Yeah.
Say what?
Everybody would be dead.
So they're, I mean, they may as well just settle down there.
But they're like, no, because there's bad things behind us. And it's like, yeah, but you could just turn all your guns to them and set up a supply line and then, reinforce. Like, this is classically how in war you actually expand your terrain. You don't just literally send a column of troops marching into the wilderness in some direction until they're ground to dust. That's not actually how you expand and take terrain, right? Like, lots of people in history have through war expanded their terrain. It happens. And it's not in any way like what's happening here. Okay. At any rate. So they shoot the wall. That's it. Like, they have guns. It's a wall. They shoot the wall. Okay. And they blow a hole in the wall. And then basically they use vine grenades. Like, their cannons have been altered to shoot cannonballs full of, like, ultra dense vines that then Marshal Thorian goes like, and cracks them open, and then the vines rip out, and like that life energy rips through the bone wall and tears it apart. Yeah. Okay.
As one does.
As one does. And wow, Dad Bod, that's a great quote. Varys, give me back my legions. Yes, indeed. What a great quote. Absolutely correct. And so, at any rate, they basically all then charge through the wall and leave the OBR behind. And the OBR is like, darn you! We'll get you next time, kids. Okay. So, there you go. Okay, so that happens there. Meanwhile, up in the rafters, there's some weird little ghoul boys floating around, and they're like watching all of this. And they're like, And then they float away. Okay, fine. Neat.
As one does.
As one does. So then they travel in the neck. And Tom, it turns out that the neck is a big winding maze of canyons. Okay?
Okay.
And but you can look out of the canyon, and up on a hill in the center, like in the distance, but in sort of the center of this, like where you're going, there's a big giant castle on top of a mountain. Like a huge castle.
Okay.
And a bunch of people are like, we should go there. That place seems awesome. Now they're, again, bewildered immediately. They seem almost too drawn to the castle, as though something lures them to this place. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. But as they're winding through these canyons, it turns out that they basically get separated. Because I don't know how this actually happens. They don't give a good explanation of this. Like, it's an army. Sure. It's marching through tight canyons. How does it get separated? Just watch the guy in front of you. If everybody just follows the one person in front of them, there shouldn't be separation. How would that occur? What are you guys doing? Okay. So, but they do. They get separated all over the place. Like, they're just now a bunch of them don't know where the other parts of the army are. So now they're all split up into like 5 different armies. Okay.
Okay.
Now, we need to pause here as they're making their way through the neck to a cutaway scene, Tom. Okay. And that is to our new girl, Sekar, the vampire lady with the big hat and snake. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So she's meeting with Gormain, the judge.
Yep.
Okay. And so what makes him special, what makes Gormain special, is he's fully aware of what's going on. Like, he's not actually under the delusion. Like, he doesn't walk around deluded like the rest of the Flesh Eater courts do. Okay? Like, he is... So he's wearing that wig...
Willingly and knowingly.
And intentionally.
He knows exactly what's happening.
He knows what he is. Like, yes, he is not deluded. Okay? Like, he doesn't have the delusion. He's just, like, very sensible and sort of... like, he's completely over this whole thing. Like, he's fun. Okay? Because he's just like... He's got a Vargulf with him who thinks he's like a big knight. Like, who thinks he's like a big, fat knight. Right?
Yeah.
And like a sort of... I don't remember the Knight of the Round Table, but one of them was like a really big dude. He's like that guy. Okay?
Yep.
And the Vargulf's just like, noble Gormain, perhaps we should do this and this. Like, he's fully deluded, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you can tell Gormain is just like, this guy. And so he's cutting a deal with Sekar to basically, that's where the wine is coming from. Okay.
Yep.
So he's funneling that out of the Summer King's court onto ships that are helmed by Neferata's New Lamian vampire captains, but manned by, like, ghoul crew under their control. Okay?
Yep.
And so they're talking about their deal, and basically both of them are, like, very frustrated with Usharon. Because of the way he vacillates between sort of lucidity. Yeah. Like, Gormain's just like, because he's kind of over this dude. Like, his lord is very fickle. Because he will vacillate between sort of rampaging madness and ferocity and, like, a sort of pallid lucidity where he's still trying to be quite noble and almost is, like, into his own delusion, right?
Okay.
And so they're, like, talking about it, and they're like, whatever, this all seems a problem. A bunch of the New Lamians are at this court. So she's there, Sekar's there with a bunch of her vampire coterie from Neferata's court, right? Okay. So that's all being set up, right? We just get a nice little aside with the two of them talking. And it is fun because he just sounds exhausted every time he talks.
Gormain?
Yeah. He's just like everything is just like, fine. Like, that's his general tone, which is fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Bruno says, if a lady shows up with that hat to y'all's shop, I would put something weird on my head as well. Yeah, that's a good point. They both got weird headdresses. It's just like, it's like the meeting of the weird headdress people. Never trust a deaf person with a weird headdress. They're all conspiring.
It checks out.
Okay. So, back to our humans. They're traveling in the neck, and sort of the main force with Thorian. Like I said, remember there's like 4 other forces that have been separated off, right?
Yep.
The main force kind of pops out, and they're like, they run into Astria Solbright. Okay, remember her? You know what I'm talking about, the one who rides the kitty cater.
Yep.
Okay, she's there with a bunch of Stormcast, and they just bump into each other here. Of course. Now, to be fair, this has been set up. She's been heading for this same castle, right?
Yeah.
Because she's trying to find the secret of how to fix the degradation of Stormcast on the Reforging. And she believes that the Summer King has information on this. Okay. But I love how they just keep bumping into Stormcast. It's hilarious. Apparently they're just everywhere out here. And so a bunch of their people are like, well, we were going to go check out this super cool castle where it seems like nothing is foreboding or could go wrong. And Astria's like, well, I needed to go check out that castle anyways, because I think it's full of ancient lore. So, fine, let's just get together and go check out this foreboding ancient castle, full of death.
Checks out. Yep. I can see nothing wrong with this plan.
So, they roll up to the castle, and soon as they cross the sort of threshold of the drawbridge, the gates spring open, and, like, ghouls just start pouring forth. Okay? Just swarming out, just ghouls and crypt horrors and stuff like that, right? And instantly, the cannons begin to sound and the guns begin to fire, and they kill a bunch of them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's clearly not enough, and they're going to get overrun, like, immediately on the bridge. Because they're not set up for a fight. And then, like, some horns sound. And all the ghouls just, like, stop. And just kind of, like, stand there. And then they part. And a bunch of ghouls come out and start throwing entrails down on the ground. Okay? Like rose petals.
Yep.
And one of their, like, abhorrents comes out, and it's like, "Hail and well met, noble travelers. Our Grand Lord, the Summer King, invites you to a hale and hearty feast in celebration of your travel. Come, feast with us. No harm shall come to you within these walls."
That's a trap.
And so, like, this is a weird vampire monster bedecked in entrails saying this, right?
Sure.
To be clear.
Yep.
And Thorian and Astria are like, "Sure, what choice do we have? I guess we're just going to do this." So they're like, "All right, let's go. Let's bring our entire forces in the castle and have lunch."
I can imagine nothing going wrong here. Continue.
Yep. So, Big Sexy said Tom has the enthusiasm of someone stuck on the phone with their grandma. Amazing. All right. So they go in and they sit down, and they all have to sit in, like, very specific positions. Everybody has very specific places at the table, Tom, right? And of course the tables are not food. You know, it's just like guts and torn up people and weird bubbling brews full of eyeballs and bones and stuff, right? Because it's empty seafood.
Yeah.
And Sekar's there as well, as is Gormain. So, like, everybody's there. They're all in this huge feast hall. And they sit Astria right at the head of the table. Okay?
Yep.
Not at the head, but, like, near the head of the table. You get it. Like, she's the first seat beside the head of the table.
Yep.
Yeah? And then there's, like, more trumpets and procession, and, like, ghouls give way to guards, give way to courtiers, give way to abhorrents, and then finally Usharon saunters in. And as he comes into the room, a bunch, like, Astria's like, "Hey, normal humans who are here, you dum-dums, avert your eyes. Just don't look at this dude. You're not going to be able to handle this." Okay? And so a few of them do, because they're dumb. And they see, like, a big regal king. Like, his madness is so powerful, his delusion so powerful, that it, like, instantly infects them as well. And so they don't see him as, like, that, what's on the screen right now, as, like, this big hulking monster.
Sure.
Okay. When the humans look at him, they see him as, like, a big, giant king. Right? He's big and tall, but he's, like, Sigmar-sized. But he's a human, right? Clad in, like, noble armor and stuff like that. Basically, they see his own delusion. Astria does not. Right? She sees through it because she's, like, a witch hunter and you know, a mage hunter and stuff like that. So, like, the delusion has no power on her.
Sure.
And she's like, "All right, well, I guess we just got to roll with this. Now we're eating this, you know, we're at this table full of entrails and guts and torn offal with a bunch of ghouls and this thing is now addressing us like a noble king. Yeah, sure, why not?" Okay. So, I mean, that's what you get when you're immortal, right? When you're like, whatever. Sure. If this goes wrong, I'll just become a lightning bolt. I guess, whatever, right? You could be a much more bold detective.
She's like, "Yeah, this is fine. I'll check it out. We'll see where this goes."
I mean, you all are definitely dead, but, like, I'm just going to become a lightning bolt, right? So I guess whatever. So she starts engaging him in conversation. And she's asking him about the somber paladin and stuff like that, right? And he's like, he's very much in, like, she's, like, putting him in memory of his old self. He's like, "Yes, I do remember, noble lady. I once went by such a name in the old days." And she's, like, pressing him on, like, there was this legend of a noble knight who cared for his people and shepherded souls of the dead. And though he was a fearsome warrior, he looked after his people, both living and dead, right? And she's like trying to get him to like, remember who you were. You know, she's like trying to do that trick, but more subtly, right? And he like stands up and he's like, I doth have a proclamation, right? Because he's going to like apparently talk about it. Meanwhile, Sekar is like, all right, well, I can't handle this. This idiot's lucid. We can't let these humans actually learn anything. They might become, you know, actually intelligent protagonists in this story. And so she immediately like bewitches one of the sergeants.
Okay.
Who really hates undead, who then stands up and shoots Usharon in the chest twice with like silver bullets. Just like bang, bang, shoots him in the chest. And he's like, oh, I am wounded. And he like scampers away. Okay. Right. Back through the doors and through the halls. And immediately it just like erupts into violence. Okay. Sure. All of the ghouls, because their lord has been shot, just go ham. Right. Now, importantly, this doesn't work out for Sekar how she thinks. Because as soon as this happens.
Sideways, yeah.
The ghouls all start ripping her attendants limb from limb. Okay? Like, the new Lambian vampires are treated no differently from the humans to the ghouls. They are all enemies of the court now. Okay? So she's like, she looks around to try to find Gormain, and he's gone. He bounced. Like, he was like, nah, dog. Okay. And so she's like, oh, no, I have been beaten. And, like, suddenly all of her people are just getting murdered. Okay. And she's like, well.
So she's a dummy.
She's also a dummy, yes. Rightly. Happily. And she's like, oh, that tricky Usharon. Well, he is a Mortark, I guess. He's clever. Okay. Sure. I mean, when the bar is this low.
Okay.
In the land of the blind, Tom, the one-eyed man is king, right? So, at any rate, so she bounces. She, like, flees. She's like, oh, don't worry. When I got here, I explored this whole place, attendants. There are catacombs in the whole mountain beneath us. Remember, it's a castle on top of a mountain, right?
Yep.
And like all castles on top of mountains, it's riven through with catacombs and tunnels beneath it. I'm sure we can go there. There won't be ghouls there because, you know... Reasons. Yeah.
Okay.
Narrator, Tom. There were many ghouls there.
Amazing.
Okay. So they kill everybody else she's with. And so she has to have her, like, snake friend. Mm-hmm. You know, like her little snake friend that she travels around with, who is a god, right? Until it, like, whatever. It's too dumb of a story to share. But it was a god.
Yep.
It's a dumb Ouroboros snake.
And then now it like lets her do things. Like move quickly.
It opens its mouth and like sucks in all their spirits. It kills all the undead in the radius basically instantaneously, except for the big cool fat knight who was following her, who's a Vargolf, right? And then she finishes him off. And then it's literally just her alone, and she's like, well, that went south. And she just like bounces. She like turns into bats or whatever and flies away. That's it.
Amazing.
Okay. Meanwhile, because you got 3 different things now happening in this fight, right? We also have Astria, who is immediately like, all you other Stormcast, like, you group, hold the wall, or hold the door. You all are with me on your kitty caters. Let's go. She, like, whistles to her dog in Haitian. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And her dog runs up and she jumps on it. And she's like, let's go find that big guy. And so she chases down Usharon, right? She's faster than all the rest. Okay. And she finds him, and he's, like, sitting on top of a pile of entrails and old books, and he's, like, bleeding and breathing heavily, and he's like, I am mortally wounded. And she's like, tell me what I need to know. And he's like, ha! Fooled you! I'm fine! I'm Usharon! You dumb! I just got shot twice. What are you, stupid? I'm a Mortark. It's 2 bullets. Like, really? Really, lady? 2 bullets. It doesn't matter how silver they are. I'm one of the chosen... I am a Mortar. Look at me. I'm 16 feet tall. Okay. And so, yeah, he's fine. And he's like, all of it was my ploys. I am the king of masks. I wear many masks. And she's like, I don't think you wear them all. I think they wear you. And he's like, nuh-uh, I'm rubber, you're glue, or whatever. I don't know. Like, this is a basic argument they get in. Okay. And then a bunch of Stormcast come in the room with her. And he kills everybody. He just kills them all, including Astria. Right?
Yep.
And he did have, like, she saw the books she wanted there. Like, she actually saw the book she was looking for. She goes to go for him. He turns around, grabs her, and eats her. Slowly. So she doesn't go and turn into lightning immediately. Okay.
Cool.
It's pretty grotesque, honestly. And
Poor
like,
girl.
Yeah, I mean, and then eventually she turns into lightning and cracks back away, right? But she saw the books but couldn't get at him, theoretically. Who knows? I don't know if maybe she grabbed one of or two of them before she left. Maybe. Because I think their, like, possessions go with them. So I'm not sure. I don't know how it works. Maybe she got them, maybe they didn't. She kind of left. That kind of got left open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's gone now. Then we come to the Dame of Leaves. Okay. And she and the rest of her humans are like trying to fight their way out of it, but they are like just completely outclassed. If the Stormcast and the vampires couldn't get it, I don't know what these idiots are gonna do, right? And so like the ghouls all just like they're basically running and trying to gun who few they can. And then all the ghouls just kind of back off, and Gormain comes out of the he kind of drops in front of them, and he's like, hello, so it's my job to tell you that since you helped us get rid of those cursed New Lamian vampires who we secretly hated, and you brought us the Stormcast, we're going to go ahead and do you a solid. You're good. You can pass through our walls. Don't tarry, though, or we'll eat you. But otherwise, we're cool. We're going to call this one Evensy Stevensies. Our healers will look after your wounded. And she's like...
Nope.
And she's like, all right, fine. So then she leaves with everybody else. Like, they don't stop her. She just leaves with the rest of her forces that are alive. And then the ghouls, the healers, eat everybody else who's still like, who's wounded but can't leave. Okay.
So they're like, here, we'll heal you. Come back to our place. And then they just eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
I mean, they are better when they wake up as ghouls, I guess. So that's cool. And then we get some, and that's the end of that story, Tom. There's a couple little sort of ends on this one. So first of all, that castle was built by Sky Titans, the one that Usharan has taken on, which I didn't know.
Well, what I was going to say is,
anyways.
So lessons here: don't go to weird castles. You may get eaten.
I mean, should have taken that offer from the OBR guy. That was this whole thing was just like, you should have taken that offer. The castle was originally owned by Sky Titans, which was cool. Like intelligent, civilized giants, mega gargants. Which is neat. I don't know if we've actually ever mentioned Sky Titans in the AOS lore before. They're an old world concept, but I don't know if we ever mentioned them here. The wall is being rebuilt because Catacross demands it. All of the vampires who are the captains of the fleet get torn apart by the ghouls, who all instantly set upon their captains. Okay? And then they take over the ships themselves. So there's like all the ships that are transporting the blood wine mutiny at once. Okay? And they basically cut Neferata out of the deal. And then two of the other like splinters just get basically destroyed, lost by other things in the neck. One of them comes out completely unscathed because it found perfect, pristine, magical waters it was able to drink from, and they can't really remember anything about it, but they're all fine now. I'm sure that's okay. Nothing could ever be.
I'm sure nothing wrong is going to come from delusion-inducing water. Continue.
Yeah. So she meets back up with the like shreds of her forces, and that's it. Robert said Sky Titans are mentioned as the creators of Iron Blasters. Yeah, but that was in the old world. That's where they took the Iron Blast, like Iron Blasters. Those cannons are Sky Titan cannons. They just took them and repurposed them. But like that's an old world piece of lore. Because the ogres basically killed out the Sky Titans in the old world. So that's everything in Ghyran. So we now have the Gyranian Crusade in shambles, completely separated from any hope of ever getting anywhere back, because it can't go through the neck, it can't go back through the wall, it can't go back through Fort Gardas. Like, what's the end of this road for them? What are they hoping to find here?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. Like, they don't have ships, so they can't just, like, found a coastal city and then sail back. Like, I don't know what the end of this road is, besides just destruction. So anyways, like, that's where they're at.
Clearly no, like, clear end game.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, story time, Tom. You ready? That's right. There's still more. I'll go quicker through this one, because this one was honestly... most of the main thrust in this was legitimately, like, the Gyranian story was way bigger. The Akshian story, almost nothing happens. Okay. We pick up in Akshi with Korgus Cole, who hears that Vandus is coming. The Hammerhand is how they refer to him. And he's like, very well then, let us build a pyre. And he starts dragging bodies. And he's like, I want a pyre so big and bright, he will find me from Aesir. Right? So, like, Cole is trying to spark a showdown between he and Vandus.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All OBR throughout Akshi have been recalled and told to redouble their defensive postures. All offensive crusades in Akshi have been stopped. Catacross has ordered an immediate halt to all offensive maneuvers and for all forces to be pulled in, and basically defense is redoubled. No other explanation is on offer. It's just, he's seeing some movements, Dr. Doom tactical genius that he is or whatever, right? And so he, to preserve his holdings, he's going into ultra defensive mode against a foe that has not yet revealed itself or whatever. The most interesting scene in this book, Tom, was like a 1-paragraph aside, okay, that has nothing to do with the story. So Manfred is killing a bunch of Bone Reapers, of Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and he gets down off his big cat, and he just pulled back. Like they're not getting pulled back to the A points Hades. They're just like holding their existing territory in Akshi and other places across all realms. By the by, this is not just I said in Akshi, but it's across all realms. They do mention that it's across all holdings the OBR hold. They've all been taken off of offense and put on defense. Okay. At any rate, Manfred is raiding one of Archon's strongholds. Okay. He's like, well, Archon's not here and gone right now, so I'm gonna go loot this dude's castle. I'm gonna get his stuff. He's literally the meme of the dude coming around the tree doing this. Yeah, exactly. Just like, I'm about to scribbity about to get all up in that booty, right? He's going for some goodies. He wants to steal some of Archon's treasures. Right?
Yep.
And so he starts walking in, and like a bunch of like dead rats, or like zombie rats, or whatever, rats basically, scurry up and start swarming him, and he's like, what is this? And he's ushering forth some energy, and he's just killing them.
Yeah.
And killing them, and killing them, and killing them. And then like more and more and more rats keep coming, and then like this weird green energy is pulsing in the center of Archon's thing, and as it pulses, just more and more waves of rats keep coming, and Archon literally can't kill them fast enough. He's like having to step back and back and back because they just keep like overwhelming him and pushing him back, and finally he's just like, all right, fine, and he just leaves. That's it. He just gives up. So Manfred, weaker than rats. You heard it here first. Got him. Okay.
Wild.
Yeah, so they don't explain it in any way, like what was ultimately in there. It's obviously just a teaser for something.
I mean, it's a tease is obvious. Skaven are coming.
Yeah, they make mention of a lot of the rats being dead, which is weird, but sure. All right. So then we pick up
undead Skaven are coming.
Yeah. Then we pick up with the main story, and we actually pick up in media res with the Oxy story. And we pick up from Luca Vi's perspective. Remember her? Mother of Nightmares?
Nope. I mean, yeah.
She's the head of the Avangori, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So she wakes up to cannonballs.
This is called the Dawnbringers Crusade, right?
Uh-huh. But Luca Vi is now our point of view character for this part of the story. Okay.
Okay.
So she wakes up to cannonballs shattering the tower that she's currently like nesting in, doing her like warrior's meditation. Okay.
Okay.
And like this story is told really weirdly. You basically get the same sort of story twice, like once from her perspective and then once from the other perspective from the human side.
Yep.
But here's the long and short of what's going on. I'm going to shortcut all this because it's completely stupid. Okay.
Yep. I agree. So, continue.
Randomly, sometime back, she broached Prince Vorderai's honor. Okay? Like, she did something that violated Vorderai's honor. Now, remember, Vorderai is the head of the Castelli, right?
Yep.
And he gets around through the Crimson Keep, which teleports around the world, around the planes, right? And so he was like, my honor must be met, beast. And she's like, fine, we'll have a showdown. And so it turns out that the Crimson Keep, like nobody knows where the Crimson Keep goes. It just randomly pops around. Even they don't know where it's going to be next. Except, Tom, luckily, once every 107 years, way too long of a time.
Yep.
I hate things like this. Okay. Once every 107 years, it pops up in this one particular spot all the time. Okay? And so they decide that's where they're going to have their fight. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Now, Tom, wouldn't you believe it? Where do you think the Dawnbringer Crusade happened to be at that exact moment?
Where the castle pops into existence.
Holy crap, it's like you're psychic, right? It's basically
like I could write these things.
they're basically like at the foothills of the mountains where the keep shows up. And so they're marching by, and remember Neve and the Black Talons are still with them at this point, right?
Yep.
And they sense all the vampires. And they're like, well, we can't have vampires at our back. Let's go attack them. We'll clean out that nest, right? And so Neve takes a group of the Dawnbringers, like a crusade, goes off, attacks the vampires, kills a whole bunch of them, wakes up Luca Vi. Luca's like, what are you doing? I'm very angry. Brr. And she goes and kills a whole bunch of people because it's just people getting killed, like in mass by these things. And then she sees that they have one of the Aquilus with them. You know what I mean? You know the little floating thing you got in that terrain box? Yeah?
Yep.
Apparently this entire crusade has one of these things that's like actually their main source of water. Okay?
I mean, at least they provided us that rationale.
Sure. Like, the size of this crusade, I don't care how much water this one thing is producing. It's not happening. At any rate, so she runs up, casts a ritual, turns it to blood. Pollutes the aquifer. Right? And then she just leaves. She's like, okay, now we go fight Vorderai, and she leaves. And, like, Neve can't kill her in time. Neve, like, hacks at her and stuff, but then she just bats Neve away, and basically that's it. And then the Zenestra and her, like, mouthpiece who's in charge of the army now, who's the new marshal, who's, like, who has the cult of the wheel on his forehead. He's, like, sitting in judgment of Neve Black Talon and the Black Talons, and is like, you're an idiot, you shouldn't have went and attacked them, you polluted our water, you did this. And Neve is like, hey, you know what? Cool. Deuces. And bounces. Okay?
Neve's such a nice person.
So she and the Black Talons leave. And leave the humans. Now, the humans are in the Great Parch, which is like a desert wasteland, obviously. And their only real source of water, I mean, they have a couple other smaller sources, like they have one or two small aquiliths that can't produce much water.
Yep.
Basically, that's it. Their main source of water is now polluted. So hardcore water rationing goes into effect. They they keep marching. Everybody's thirsty. Everybody's angry. And there's a new leader that comes to the fold named Thongest Smold. The name of a hero, Tom.
Clearly.
Thongest Smold begins like, he's the leader of the sane people, okay? Who are like, your cult is dumb. Stop stealing the wheels off everybody. This has no purpose. We need to go back to Hammerhall. Okay?
Finally, someone with just, that's rational.
Yes. This has failed. Let's stop it. Let's turn around and go home. Okay? This is dumb. And so, he starts leading a contingent of the sane people. They wake up in the middle of the night, and he left. He took all of the rest of the sane people and just left. Took a bunch of their rations, took what water sources they had, and he was like, look, you bunch of religious idiot morons, psychotic cult people, you can all just die in the desert. If you're too stupid to know that you're beaten, we're done. And he leaves. He leaves with everybody else with like this. So now you have this splinter of that left. Okay.
Yep.
And Sinestra's like,
we're going to fast forward.
Yeah.
Like 2 books to the end. And we'll find out that all of the Dawnbringer crusades failed, except that dude. Yeah. Where they like stumbled onto a paradise, because they're like, one will fail, one will succeed. Like everybody gets wiped out, with this dude who was like, I'm out.
Yeah. So he leaves. Here's Sinestra's brilliant idea. She's like, okay, well, look, the Crimson Keep appears in that place because it's a nexus of a bunch of magical power. So if we go there, we can take that nexus of magical power and use it to purify all of our water. Use it to purify the aquilith. Okay? So she marches all of them, the remaining people, back around in a circle, back to these 2 realm gates, basically on the mountain. There's 2 realm gates there, and then the Crimson Keep, is in the city that was right above it. She marches up into it, and what comes out? A bunch of ghosts. Because all the people who lived in the city, the Crimson Keep's gone, because it only stays there for a day. It only stays in any one location for 24 hours. So it's gone. Yeah. It's gone now. But, like, all the ghosts come out, and they're like, turn around, leave, you shall not be here. This place is cursed. Every 107 years we keep getting apocalypsed, and we don't know why. Just leave. Okay? And they're like, no, we're going to take your magic. So there's a big dumb fight with a bunch of ghosts that doesn't matter. And a bunch more people die for basically no reason. And Pontifex Sinestra once again summons up like a sort of Deus Ex Machina amount of magic to like kill. There's a bunch of like Mortis engines floating around and stuff. Like it's literally like the Mordant party, right?
Yeah.
And she kills a bunch of the Mortis engines and unleashes the magic, and it purifies the aquilith. And she's like, see, and everybody who's there is like, oh, we win, it works, she is the great one. And like now they're 10 times as zealous because her dumb plan failed into succeeding, basically, even though a bunch more people got killed by ghosts. Okay.
Terrible. Simply terrible.
So that's the end of that. And that's literally the end of that story. That's it. That's all that happens. Okay. Like truly the Akshi side, nothing happens. They get nowhere. They make no progress. They do give you a thing where like, Thorgest Smold, nobody knows where his people are. They're like the missing legion. Nobody knows where they are. Okay. And I'm like, well, I hope they're doing fine because they're the smart ones. There's a little thing with Callus and Toll still investigating, and they're like, I could put you and the weird blind lady with the cat in that group of weirdos. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
She's like, well, I hear we're releasing with the next book. Maybe we can talk to a Cainite who has a lot of hair in her face and doesn't follow Marathi. And so like, okay, sure. So basically,
the next one.
Yeah, she's just like, we should go talk to the character on the front of the next book. Good idea.
Hashtag foreshadowing.
Yeah. And then Usharon, Nefrata shows up with like a blood avatar and talks to Usharon. He's like, "Oh, welcome, sister. Welcome to my noble halls." And she's like, "You moron, what are you doing?" And he's like, "There's no need for such rudeness." And she's like, "What'd you do with my captains?" And he's like, "There's no need for your people anymore. We will be taking over this blood game. We're running this show up in here. Now, get your stupid blood avatar out of my halls before I disperse it, and or come visit you personally." And she's like, "Whatevs," and bounces. So Usharon's taken over the blood game. Basically, he likes the idea. He thinks we should keep selling his madness in Hammerhall. And so, but he doesn't need Neffy to be involved in this in any way, shape, or form. And he outmaneuvered her. The basic plot is he outmaneuvered her.
Dun.
Yeah. There you go. That's story time.
Wow. I mean, the Crusade is like, this is just lackluster.
Mm-hmm.
That's my summary with regard to the actual story that's supposed to be being told, which is the Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a thin veil for like, here's FEC now.
Yeah. It's watch all of these things we want to introduce into the world. Kill everything. Kill the humans. That's it. Rokomet. So who won the duel? Vorderai or Lukavai? I have no idea because they don't tell you. That's not in the story.
Cool.
They literally just be like, she leaves. And that's it. They mention that a big group of Blood Knights got left behind, like when the Crimson Keep teleported after the fight. Yeah. And the Blood Knights were like, all right, well, let's go kill some Chaos people, I guess. So they just like start a big blood hunt going to kill Khorne people.
Insanity.
Yeah, that's the story. The Akshi story was insane. It was just nothing. It was... At least the Gyranian story was, like, kind of fun. Because you have these, like, funny characters bouncing around, like Cormaine and stuff, you know? And, like, Thorian is kind of an interesting character. Because she's, like... She's not a zealot or anything. She's just trying to do best by her people, you know? Yeah. And, like, actually do her duty. So she's, like... She is sympathetic. And she's not dumb. She is actually, like, a relatively intelligent character. She's just, like... She is put upon by this Sisyphean impossible task, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, that's what happens. Nothing is basically what happens. Tom, we had a 1 pound shot going out of a 2 pound cannon here. Like there is not enough story for 5 or 6 books, right? That's what it's coming down to.
Yep.
Okay, story time over. Let's move on. Here we go. Let's move on to Triumph and Treachery. Wanted to talk a little bit about this. Yeah, so there are full rules for Triumph and Treachery. Like, it's not just new battle plans. It does have the full Triumph and Treachery rules updated for 3rd edition. It's pretty cool. Like, legitimately, I like this set of rules. I don't remember how different it is. I'd have to go back and compare and contrast to the original, like, 2017
this is the one with, like, the shared, like, 50 command points total for the whole...
Each player has 50 CPs for the whole game. You just start with a big pile of 50. And you can spend them on a bunch of different stuff, doing ploys, doing your normal command points. You know, like, it all comes... You can trade them to people, right? Like, buy people off. All that's in play, right? Like, all the politics is here. You can buy people off, have them not attack you, you know, do all sorts of different things, right? So all that's still there. The battle plans are really cool. There is 4 of them. There's, like, the deployment is fun. There's, like, easy reserves for all players. You don't have to have everything on the table all at once, which is cool in a game, like, in a normal table with 4 people, so it's not too packed in there, right? The victory conditions are like a mix of kill points and objectives constantly. The list of ploys are broken up by phase, where you can spend your CP to do fun ploys and stuff. They're really cool. Like it's a good list of ploys. It's actually like a pretty good long 2-page list of these things. So they're fun. You don't have the secret objective points, which I think you had in the 2017. Was part of how you scored your victory points in the 2017 version. That's not present here. It's just like there are objectives. The objectives vary a lot. Actually, they're not just like it's 2 points on a field. They're interesting. Like some are random, some show up, some are mobile. Like it's cool. They're quite varied. But it's just that and kill points. Those two things together basically create. Like you get 1 victory point for every 100 points you kill. Is what it comes down to.
Okay.
The game mastered version, which is like a sort of like it's still Triumph for Treachery, but it's sort of a separate play mode. Is a simpler battle plan. But the trick is Nagash owns all your coins. Like he has all the coins hidden behind a screen. So he knows how many CP each of you have. So you're like blind betting your CP. Like you can pay somebody off, but unless you have like keep very careful track, you don't know how many everybody has. As they like you can remember it first, but like quickly it's going to become untrackable as coins start trading amongst players and the GM is like handing them out and moving and stuff like that and making decisions, that sort of thing. Right. So, but that's just, it's kind of a big free for all. You can, Alan said, how many points do you bring for Triumph for Treachery? It varies. You can play varied points amounts, you know, like 1,000, 2,000 points.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, I don't have a huge amount to say on it. But it's good. Like it's the maps are good. There's no battle tactics, obviously. You're just playing the game. You're using the fun plays. You're, you know, backstabbing people, politicking with people. I mean, it's cool. Like,
have you gotten a game in by chance?
No, I have not gotten a game in of the new Triumph of Treachery. I do want to try this at some point. Yeah, it is fully fleshed out, Keith. Yes. Like everything is here. It has the full end-to-end run. Like I said, truly my only complaint with it is that you only got 4 battle plans instead of 6. I would have loved to see a full 6 battle plans. Like I don't know why we only got 4, but you know, all in all, that's a pretty minor thing. You could easily just like make some variant scenarios, right?
Well, I mean, it's likely like there is an aspect of it where it is likely just like exploratory.
Yeah, I agree. But it's cool. Like if it's something that's ever interested you in any way to have this kind of Triumph and Treachery multiplayer experience, this book does give you everything you need to do it. And that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So I like that they rewrote the rules. It's full 3.0. It's the full version of the game. Everything's included. Bang, bang. It's a good night of fun with you and your friends. So I'm here for it. I'd say I would highly recommend it. This comes with my enthusiastic stamp of approval. Because it seems like really well designed and really nice. So, yeah. Good stuff. All right, Tom. With that short interlude over on TNT, let's talk about rules. We're finally here. Hey, if you haven't hit like yet, hit like for story time. Subscribe. Do all those things, everybody. Hit the things that make dings. Hit them buttons. It's cool. Be cool. Be cool. All right, so here we go. First off, Tom, we're going to do the Army of Renown. I am excited about this army, Tom. I have not been this excited about an Army of Renown in a while. I think I'm gonna build this army, Tom. Okay.
Which army?
This army, the Scions of New Lamia.
Oh yeah. The bats and wolves and.
Yeah, this army's terrible. I am very excited about it. Okay. This is.
Is it just because you want 10-foot vampires?
Yes. I like painting. You know what I love painting, Tom? Solo foot heroes. It's fun. Yeah. This army is like, yo, dog, I heard you liked solo foot heroes. We got you. All right. So what is the science of New Lamia? Well, this is Sekar's force. So we'll talk about her in just a moment. We'll actually look at her scroll. But you can only have the following units in your army: direwolves, fellbats, and vampire heroes with a wounds characteristic of 12 or less that do not have a sub-faction keyword.
Amazing.
Amazing indeed. Okay. So, Tom, this is not actually a big list. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean you can actually have? Well, obviously, direwolves and feral bats are self-explanatory, right?
Yep.
Okay. What other options besides, and then vampire lords? Obviously, we've got our vampire lord on foot, right? Yep. And we or vampire heroes. Sorry, to be clear. We have Ito Katchazar, or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He's legal because he does not have a keyword to him.
Interesting.
Okay. Oh, Cato Etchazar. Sorry, that's how you say his name.
Cato, correct.
Cato as a chair.
It's just Cato. It's just Cato.
But he is a vampire hero, and he does not have any subfaction beyond Soulblight Gravelords. So that's cool.
Yeah, I like Cato a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, a lot of the fun ones that I would want to play, like Kritza or Lady Anika or stuff like that, all the interesting other foot vampires, they are all Virkos, obviously.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But there is a couple others that actually don't have keywords. Okay. So, do you know who Prince Duval is, Tom?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's
the Underworlds.
That's right.
Yep, the Underworlds unit. Which, by the way, I love that unit. Like, I think it's a great little foot unit of vampires.
Yep, he does not have a subfaction keyword.
Have you looked at his spell?
He's really good. Yeah, he's cool. Right.
Yep.
But there's another one. There's actually another really interesting one, Tom. And I was surprised that this one did not have, when I was looking through this trying to build this, there was another one that does not have a subfaction keyword. And this actually surprised me. Okay. And that is the Vengorian Lord. So not Lukavi, because she's
the generic Vengorian Lord. Yeah.
Yep. The generic Vengorian Lord does not have the Avengori keyword. He is just, again, vampire hero. So he is also a legal take because he's only 10 wounds. So he fits in there. Obviously, everybody else like Radikar and all of that, they're all Virkos. But that's your list of options as far as vampires go. So that's cool. Like, that's actually kind of a fun little list of options in Prince. So you'd have the Underworld's Warband, you'd have Cato, you'd have a Vengorian Lord, and then some vampire lords on foot, right?
Yeah, totally.
So pretty cool. Like, I thought that was actually kind of a fun little list, honestly.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think it is an interesting list that could be fun to paint up and put on the table. Obviously, I don't know that it would be competitive, but I think it'd be fun.
Sure. There is technically one other unit here that does work. Okay. I don't think I'd want it in my army, but there is one other one. And yes, I guess technically I don't know if it's one or two. I don't know how to count it. But the Coven Throne and the Bloodseeker Palanquin are both 12 wound models that don't have a type. So yes, exactly, like Joshua and T. Griffin both got here as well. Because you can have a mount, you just can't have more than 12 wounds. Part of my problem with those is they're just both really, really bad. But technically they are valid for this. So, so you could use them.
Sure.
Yep. So there you go. Those are your Bloodseeker, Palanquin, Coven Throne, regular Vampire Lord on foot, Cato, Vengorian Lord, Prince Duval. That's your legal list of people. Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. So what do you get? All right. All your Vampire Lord units gain the battlefield role. So that specifically would be Cato and your regular Vampire Lords on foot and Prince Duval. I think all have the actual Vampire Lord keyword. The other ones I don't think do. Let me look here real quick. I don't know if the stupid Palanquins do. No, they don't have the Vampire Lord keyword. Okay. You get a 6-up ward, of course. You can pick 3 friendly summonable units, wholly within 12 inches of one of your heroes. You can heal up to 3 wounds or return a number of slain models. So that's obviously going to be your wolves and your bats, right? And you can get 4 total if you're within other heroes. So that's fine. You can't pick the same ability more than once. You get a new spell called Grave Call. You pick 1 friendly Science New Lamia summonable unit wholly within range. You can add D3 models to that unit, which can take it above its starting size. Pretty cool spell. So like getting D3 extra direwolves, because that's what you're going to use it on, right? And then the Bacchanal of Blood. You have like an ogre rule here, where you're either bloodthirsty or empowered. So you either get +1 to attack if you're within 3 inches of an enemy, or +1 to cast if you're more than 3 inches away. I actually quite like that. Some of those units, like the Vengorian Lord with +1 attack, is actually pretty interesting. Maybe even the Coven Throne could do something. I don't know. I mean, +1 attack is a good ability because it's to the whole profile, right? To the whole melee profile, I should say.
Yep.
Okay. And then Demise by Design. You get these plots. Okay. At the start of your hero phase, you can say that you're trying to attempt a plot, which we'll talk about in a second. You have to tell your opponent which one you're doing, and you can't do the same. You can't attempt the same plot more than once per battle. And if you complete the plot, you get the ability for the rest of the battle. So what are these plots? Okay, so you got 4 of them. All right? So, Thaumic Realignment. You pick 1 friendly wizard. It has to successfully cast 2 spells this hero phase that are not unbound, which gives you +1 to casting for the rest of the game. You can pick 1 friendly unit, and if it destroys an enemy unit that started the turn with 5 or more models, you get 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons for the rest of the game. Pretty potent. Pretty cool. A Worthy Vintage. You pick 1 friendly unit. It must destroy an enemy hero or monster. You get 1 to save rolls, just period, to all your saves for the rest of that, for the rest of the game. And then the Queen's Prize, you pick 1 friendly unit, and it must be contesting an objective you control that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. So take an objective from somebody. Basically, do a bunch of the old, easier battle tactics. Okay? And if you do so, you get a cool reward. And then that one makes you count as double on objectives. So, pretty cool. Oh, and then obviously I didn't say it, but you can have Sekar in the army as well. I didn't mention her, but like, duh, she's going to be in the army. It's her army.
Of course. Which I like her. I mean, I think that she's a fun, she is a fun tech piece.
I agree. Okay, so your command trait that you get here, which doesn't have the unique exception, so I guess you can't give this to Sekar if you make her your general or whatever, which is weird. I hate when they do these special armies and then don't write in the like unique also thing. What's the point of this if you're not doing that? So that's fine. But at the end of your movement phase, you can pick 1 destroyed friendly science and let me a summonable unit roll a die. On a 3-up, a replacement unit with half of the models from the destroyed unit is added to your army. That unit has to be set up totally within 12 of the general and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. It cannot attempt to charge or make a pile and move in the same turn. So, okay. And, you know, standard stuff. You get a much, much weaker, more balanced version of the dumb thing that the regular Soul Blight can do.
Yeah.
And then, because it only works on wolves and bats. This is your only 2 options in this army. Not zombies and skeletons. And it only works in your movement phase. Not in the enemy's turn. And they still can't attempt to charge. You get an artifact that gives you a 5-up ward. while you're within 3 inches of a summonable unit. Okay, fine. And then you have a grand strat and some battle tactics. Those exist. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, I like this one, Tom. I just want an excuse to paint up a bunch of cool vampire lords. And that seems fun.
I think that checks out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That does sound fun.
I mean, I already have a Coven Throne, so... And I got Kato and a bunch of other vampire lords already painted, so... Cool. Seems good to me. Yeah, that's the army. What do you think of it overall? Like, legitimately, I don't think this is competitive, but what do you think of this army?
No, I would agree with that. I don't think that it's competitive. I still think it would be fun, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that it would be an interesting opportunity, and I think that there could be a lot of just fun play there. It is an interesting... Like, I like as funny as it sounds, with as junk of a unit as they are, like, like you think like, oh, it's a limited army because it's just a bunch of like stupid battle line, and then because it's not the standard what I would say battle line necessarily. Like, you can't do like large units of it or whatever.
Sure.
But I like all of those things. I like bats. I like wolves. Right, those are actually really interesting techie battle line units.
Yep.
And so if you're wanting, like, vampires right now have a really good ability in hunger, right? So
sure.
I think that they're like it's a good chassis to build something on, even if it's generally going to be in the weaker space.
Yeah.
Like, I think something like Launchion, the boat, could do some heavy work in that army.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the boatman.
Yeah, the boatman, just because he can ferry your vampire lords around wherever they need to be for combat. Like, he could pick up and drop off Kato or whoever, right? Yep. Like, deliver them into combat. And so I think that there could be some fun, tech stuff there. Again, it's not going to be like highly competitive, but I think it would be interesting.
Again, I agree. I need to paint up some more wolves. I don't have quite enough wolves because I want to do a couple units of wolves.
Yep.
But like, I just think this would be a fun thing to put together. So I might like just kind of errantly work on this. I've got the Sekar box set, so I'll probably just crack that open, get that painted. I think she's a cool model. I don't love her hat, but she's neat. She's
your accidental
Soulblight Gravelard's army continues.
Yep.
You didn't get me a death thing, Tom. You got me knights. You got me Bretonnian knights. You could have grabbed me a death thing.
You asked for me to grab something, and I grabbed you something.
I appreciate it. All right. Welcome. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. Okay. So now let's talk regiments. Let's talk Sekar for a second, because we do have her. Sorry, then we'll talk the regiments.
Yep.
The Fang of New Lamia. Again, she's cool. 7 wounds, 4 up save. She's like fine enough in combat. She's like slightly better than a Stormcast hero, basically. But she is a double caster. And
double casters for 160, 150, 160, pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. So she is 160 points. I didn't write the points on here because I'm a dumb. I'm sorry, everybody. She is 160 points. And obviously she trips everything sort of in the army, so that's cool. And she has her little snake. She can use that can use its little maw, which is not a hugely good ability, honestly. Once a game, it does this thing, and it can do some mortal wounds to everybody around her in a small radius. And then she loses her. She can only be hit on a 5 or 6, which is a very potent ability. She does have a heck of a spell, though. Death's Construction.
Yep.
Basically, she has a casting value of 6 and range of 18. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster until your next hero phase. That unit cannot pick this unit or friendly units wholly within 6 inches of this unit as the target of spells, prayers, abilities, or shooting attacks. So, pretty cool. She can basically make it so her and everybody near her can't be targeted by one enemy unit. So that's fun. And she's 160 points, so it's fine. Okay. All right, now let's talk about the actual regiments of renown.
Sure.
Okay. Neferata's Royal Echelon. This is Neferata, 5 Black Knights, 10 skeletons, 10 skeletons. All of these can only be taken by not their army. So, like all regiments.
Sure.
Right? Like, you can't take this in an SPG army. So, you have to have a Death General, and it can't be, and you cannot have the Soulblight Gravelords faction. And then you can take this. Okay, and that's going to be true for all of these going all the way along. And her Royal Echelon, everybody shows up with a 6-up ward because they're undead. Once per battle at the end of your battle shock phase, if I love how they say if the Neferata in this regiment of renown is on the battlefield. It's a weird way to say that. I mean, I know that's what it is, but like if Nephi, got it. Yep. You can replace the battle tactic you picked at the start of your hero phase with a different eligible battle tactic. If you do so, you must pick a battle tactic that has not already been completed.
Pretty good.
You can actually pick one, Tom, that you tried and failed.
Yep.
This is a stupid ability. Like,
well, like I know that people are like making a big deal out of it.
Sure.
But the assumption is if you're picking one that you've already failed, then you've already dropped points.
Of course, so it doesn't matter. You're not picking one you've already failed. You're picking a different one that you actually like midway through the turn couldn't complete.
Yeah.
And you set yourself up like you just like what this does is it makes sure you get your second battle tactic or you get your battle tactic in the turn. Because what you're actually doing is like, well, I'll try for this one, which may not happen because of some bad roll. Yeah. But I'll have in my pocket, you know, the intimidate the enemy.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Where I'm just out of my deployment zone. So I'm going to get that one automatically. Right? But I don't have to burn that automatic one if I get the one that's there. So you can always just ride with the easy one as an ace up your sleeve until you accidentally, through some fluke of fate, drop a battle tactic, and then, ta-da, you didn't.
You swap to it, yeah. Yep.
Right. I mean, that's how you're actually using this.
Yep.
It just makes sure that you definitely go 5 for 5.
So that's good news for... I mean, who would run this, though? Again, it's like, what, 600, 700 points of an army?
Neferata's Mortar is 600 points.
Yep. So, I mean, so who's running this? Maybe FEC, probably not. Maybe... I mean, your only options are Nighthaunt, FEC, and
an OBR.
An OBR.
Yeah.
I mean, Nighthaunt wouldn't be terrible.
If I was a Nighthaunt, I think I'd take this.
Over the other ones?
I mean, again, understanding I hate these and don't think they should be taken.
Yep.
But like from a personal level, like separating my own will from it, I think this is absolutely a straight upgrade for your Nighthaunt. Because it gives you another option. It gives you a big monster.
Yep.
It gives you another option to shut off ward saves.
Yep.
Because that's the third ability. And it gives you battle tactic stuff, which is actually kind of hard to go 5 for 5 in Nighthaunt. They're like the one death army that's actually somewhat hard to do this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's giving you Black Knights are great screens. Death Rattle are also decent screens. And I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I think it could be part of a pretty competitive Nighthaunt list. That's what I'll say.
It's fine, is what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I hate it.
It's probably the most interesting one. Okay.
I mean, like, it's probably the most competitive one.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Tom. As always, it's the cheapest one.
Of course.
Of course. Like, of course it is. Just like with Endless Spells. Anytime we get a new jank ability that's going to like this opens up corner shooting, angle shooting, weird play, right? It's got weird new abilities in it that we haven't seen in the game so far. So why not put it in the cheapest thing? Of course, every time.
Yep. Well, they may just not know how to point it.
Sure. All right, next up. The Summer King's Entourage. Usharon, 10 Crypt Guard, and 3 Morbeg Knights. So, Ward of 6 up. Add one of the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by units in this Regiment of Renown while they're wholly within 12 inches of Usharon. In this Regiment of Renown. Real good ability.
Yep.
And summon Deluded Throngs. At the end of your movement phase, if Usharon in this regiment is announced on the battlefield, you can pick one Serfs or Knights unit in this Regiment of Renown that's been destroyed and add a replacement unit identical to that unit in your army. Replacement units must be set up wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield edge and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Each destroyed unit can only be replaced once. So he can replace the Crypt Guard once, he can replace the Morbeg Knights once. So, pretty cool. Obviously, this one, oh, by the way, points-wise, this one is 670 points. But you do get Big Papa Ushi in it, who is a powerhouse piece on his own.
Yep. And he's very survivable.
He is indeed. I mean, like, honestly, he doesn't super need his army to be good. So, first of all, he's showing up as a War Master General. Even in this whatever army you've put him in. Okay. He can't use his Epicenter of Delusion in this army.
Yeah. Right.
Because he only gets that in a Flesh Eater Courts army. Okay.
Yep.
Which means he's not gaining Noble Deed points either, right? Because he doesn't have access to that thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
He is still doing his, like, madness thing, where he's making people strike last.
Yep, and he's brought along guard.
He's brought along Crypt Guard, which could theoretically, like, again, it's kind of problematic to have 10 of them properly give him the ward bonus, but it can be done, like, whatever. It's a dumb, stupid movement game you're trying to pull there, but it can be done.
Yep.
He still has his ward, he still self-heals, and he still has his spell, right? And he himself is a powerful piece who's, you know, a big monster and all of that, right? So, like, he's still bringing all of that to the table. I don't know. This is actually a pretty interesting combination to me. Because of just how potent Usharon is as a piece.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I don't have my book here. I'd want to look at the Crypt Guard and their +1 ward, if that's only Flesh Eater Court units.
Oh, what do the Crypt Guard actually say? You're saying?
Yeah, because that could be really. I mean, if they're like, if it's friendly units, I'm assuming they got the rules. But if it's friendly units, they could actually augment the ward save then of other death units.
I will say I legitimately don't know, and
I mean, I would assume that they didn't make that mistake when writing the rules, but if they didn't, that could be a real interesting. The war scrolls aren't on the website anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they're not in the. I don't think they're in the app yet either.
They're not.
Yeah, and I don't have my FEC book at hand, so I can't. Yeah, I can't say.
Anyways, we can move on, and I'll.
That's fine. Either way, I think this one's interesting. It's probably most interesting. I mean, again, I hate to say it, but it's probably most interesting in Night Haunt. Just because it gives you
because Night Haunt has problems, right?
Sure, but it also gives you a powerful monster piece to be like a center, like him with the Crypt Guard backing up, and then the Knights to ride in and countercharge anything. When those Knights with +1 attack actually can do some pretty significant work. Bringing in the like shut off, and that's bringing in the advanced capture, the advanced objective capture that they bring, the shutting off, unleash hell, like all of that stuff, and the fact that you can just recall a full unit of 3 of them when they're dead and get them back in the game pretty decently quick is pretty solid. So.
Yep.
Okay, the Sternis.
It's Flesh Eater Court's heroes.
Okay, there you go.
Is the wording. So yeah, so that is accurate. Although that does mean that they are bringing it obviously to Usharon.
Yeah, sure.
In this, even with the weird spacing.
Yep. The Stirneast Garrison. Sure, why not? Take a shot at that. Okay, so the Stirneast Garrison is Manfred, 10 Grave Guard, 3 Fellbats, 3 Fellbats. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Everybody gets a ward of 6 up. Everybody gets +1 attacks. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic weapons used by units in this regiment round that were set up in the same turn. Okay. So when you're set up, you get +1 attacks. And then at the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 unit in this regiment or renown that is more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again more than 6 inches from all enemy units. That unit cannot move in the following movement phase. Oh no. But it can charge. Hey Tom, do you know what the worst thing about Graveguard is?
They're slow.
They're slow. That's right.
You know what the best thing about this thing is?
Teleporting them and then giving them 6-inch charges with +1 attacks. Yeah.
Yeah, this is real good.
Sure.
I mean, I would definitely feel this.
So this one's 630 points, by the way.
Yep.
What are you putting this in?
Nighthaunt.
Okay. Just Nighthaunt, or are you putting this in anything else?
I would put it in FEC, absolutely. The problem with the problem with FEC is that you don't have good screen throwaway units. Like you just don't have them in FEC at all. Because everything is like a bajillion points. Everything's 140 or more generally.
Yep.
And that's for like 130 for a 3 wound, or 3 model unit, 140 for a 10 model unit, and then otherwise 160. Yep. And so those bats are wonderful mobility, objective grabbers, and screens, like if you need them to. And the fact that you could do that with them and then have the Graveguard is this like teleporting alpha army, or alpha like support unit is delightful. And Manfred's nothing to joke at, right? Like Manfred has wonderful tools.
Yes, he's a very tricky piece. Absolutely. He doesn't do his automatic teleport out of combat anymore. He would not get his War Master in your other forces, because his War Master is pinned on being in a Soulblight Gravelord's army. They don't always use the same wording template for this. Usharon's, they don't use that wording. It's just Usharon is always a general
in a War Master army.
Yeah. Whereas Manfred specifically says if he's in a Soulblight Gravelord's army. I don't know why.
Well, that doesn't matter to me. Like that wouldn't hurt my feelings. Like he would still be able to do his job in either a Nighthaunt or a actually I really like him in an army because because it brings mortal wounds into your FEC army, and that's something that you don't have.
You're saying through the Graveguard choppy chops.
Yeah.
Well, and also through Manfred's spell, he has a pretty good mortal wound spell too.
It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, he's generally less afraid to be up and in the mix, right? Like he can,
right. Yeah, hunger does a lot of work.
Sure.
Indeed.
Sure. Dude, he has like a boss.
Yes, he does. I quite like both. I quite like his more than I think I like Nefrada's. Even though Nefrada's is like powerful from the tactic standpoint, I really like what he's doing, and I like how this augments some of the weaknesses we find in FE.
Sure, I get that. Yeah, I mean, being able to just hurl those 10 dudes into combat, depending on how you pick your fights, there might not be a counter punch that comes and hits them, right?
No.
Right. And the key is the only thing that's like stopping their teleport is being within 3 inches of an enemy unit.
Right. So if they murder a unit.
Yeah, and like nobody comes to reprise them, you just do it again.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't there's no distance. He could be, Manfred could be on the other side of the table and he can flip him around. There's no distance for that, right?
Right. And if you don't here's the reality is that's fine. Let's say they get bogged down in combat. Manfred can teleport anywhere and engage at 6 inches.
Sure. Yeah.
And like he's not a terrible combat piece.
Right. Yeah, he can do that to himself. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff. Meanwhile, you just use the bats to like screen off and make sure that like you don't actually get charged.
Yeah.
Because the bats are so fast, right? You just like run them into position where they're actually chargeable, or like move and charge block people from coming and getting into.
Yes, they can charge block, and they can go grab objectives, lightly guarded objectives.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Okay, the Lich's Hand. Arcan the Black Mortark of Sacrament, 2 Morghast Archai, 2 Morghast Harbingers. So you get 4 of the angel guys. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the things that are already a problem in the meta go on.
Sure, well, you can get 4 of them. This is the most expensive one at 750 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Everybody here gets a 6-up ward. And then you can roll a dice each time a friendly unit in this regiment of renown is affected by a spell cast by an enemy unit or the abilities of an endless spell summoned by an enemy unit. On a 2+, ignore the effect of that spell or the effects of that endless spell's abilities on that unit. Pretty cool. So, hey, do you like Null Myriad but wish you could have it in other people's armies? Now you have magic-proof murder machines that also shut off commands if they're near you.
Pretty good.
Because that's what Morghast do. They just shut off, like they are absolute shutdown engines, right? These guys are really scary. So that's cool.
It's funny. When I look at this, I'm like, what does FEC need to supplement their charges with 9 Cryptors? Let's shut off command abilities with them coming in too. That sounds great.
Yeah. Well, you remember with like the Morghast Archai, they also can end up tripping into strike first.
Yeah.
If they charge on an 8+. Both of these guys just shut off all commands if they're within 3 inches of the unit. Like the unit cannot receive commands in any phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like if the enemy doesn't have a lot of shooting, these guys are going to do some dirty business because they can't get brought down by magic. They're more than a match for most things in melee. So, pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. I agree. There's another one where like I could easily see it slipping into Nighthaunt very easily. I could see it slipping into what do I want to say? Into FEC. I'm legitimately not even like I'm legitimately of the mind that you might even be able to build a Soul Blight list where this thing is attractive to some degree, depending on what else is in your list. Just because you might be able to like swarm and then shut off commands and just like use that to win your sort of attrition game more quickly.
And funny story, the Nighthaunt debuffs on would, if you're reducing armor, would apply to these guys' attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story.
I mean, I think these dudes rock in Nighthaunt. There is no doubt. This is like super, super duper good in Nighthaunt. Yeah. So there you go. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Scions of the Necropolis. Catacross, Mortark of the Necropolis, 3 Immortus Guard, 3 Immortus Guard. Ward is 6-up. Enemy models that have a wounds characteristic of 3 or less cannot contest objectives while they're within 6 inches of any models in this regiment of renown.
Can we talk about the fact that I guess multiple. I was say, can we talk about the fact that OBR got multiple ones of these, but I guess Soul Blight did too.
Sure. Well, they have two bosses.
I know.
So
I know.
That's how it works. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about this one except it's strong and full of very strong units. Like, this one is 750 points, so it's tied with Archon for
yep.
It's tied for the most expensive.
Yep.
Both of the Bone Daddy ones are expensive. You know, these guys, sure, they shield for Catacross, not that it matters very much, but these guys have the fight twice thing on them. The Immortus Guard do.
Yep.
Okay. You know, they're 3-up base save, making 3 attacks at 3/3s -2/2.
Yep.
Like, they're a pretty solid unit, and Catacross is obviously a house. Now, again, what is he actually getting here? Okay, well, he has all of his normal crap.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
His heal, his like heal other units that he can do is not limited to him being in a OBR army.
Fascinating.
He just gets to do it. So that's cool.
What's the wording on it?
Is a lot of wording, but in your hero phase you can pick up to 3 friendly Ossiarch Bone Reapers units wholly within blah blah blah. It's there you go. And it's if it's an Immortus Guard unit, which it is, then you heal the thing and so on and so forth. It's the new wording potentially or whatever, like blah blah blah. He brings his +1 attack command ability for his guys. It would only affect his guys, but it's there. And he can also use his like +1 to hit, +1 to save command still. Like neither of those are there. He still gets his Spy Master, so he's stealing command points on a 5-up. You know, he still gets all of his dumb abilities. Yeah. Now, the downside is that's a bunch of dudes walking around the board at 5 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, the discount is real here, right? Like he alone is normally 500 points. And so you're literally getting one of those Immortalis Guards basically free.
Sure. And like that bulwark is really strong against some armies.
Well, it's only enemy models,
but it is within 6 inches, which is what matters. Because if they're sitting, you know, if they're in the near the middle of the objective, then it doesn't matter that it's models because they've now hit the entire radius. You know, that's the problem with like everybody. I was all excited about the brute ability to shut off 1 and 2 wound capture for models, but it's only within 3. Everybody just moves away from them and then still caps the thing, right?
Yeah.
The difference between that ability at 6 inches and 3 inches, and also that ability being on 3 wound models instead of just 1 or 2, is huge.
Yeah.
There are like a decent number of armies where this just shuts off. These guys floating around just shut off your ability to capture, and these are not easy models to lift.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if like how much of a nightmare something like this would be in like a Soulblight zombie army. Because you're already just bodies and meat.
Yeah, sure. 100%.
And
Soulblight, zombies, skeletons, dire wolves, I'd take any of it. You just surround these guys with summonable units and sit them near the center of objectives. Okay.
Can your vampire army take one?
Can the
army of renown take a regiment of renown of a different army?
I think so. Because I think so. Let me look at the rules for regiments. I think the answer is yes.
Because technically these would be considered allies, and I don't think that you can bring in allies in a regiment or an army of renown, right? Or do these are these separate from allies?
I'm trying to find the specific rules for the regiments.
I mean,
no, they replace allies. They like you don't have an allies list with your thing.
I understand that, but like I wonder if the way the wording may be of like your army may only contain X numbers of units may restrict it from including these types of things.
Exactly. That's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay.
Mm.
Regiments of renown, allies, depending on your general's keyword. All units in the regiment gain that. They have to, your regiment on your army, if there's a value, blah, you have to be in the battalion. I mean, there's nothing in these core rules here that says you can't.
That's interesting.
You just, like, to satisfy the criteria, you couldn't take either of the SBG ones, right? Because you are still, the Scions of New Long is still an SBG army.
Soul
right?
Blight, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you could take this one or the whatever, the OBR one, the two OBR ones, the FEC one or the Nighthawk one, I think.
That's interesting. Just from like an objective holding standpoint.
Sure.
Like, yes, objective holding is a problem for bats and like wolves to a lesser degree. But when you throw something like this in the mix with a bunch of foot vamps, might be an interesting alternative.
I agree. Okay. And then lastly, the Sorrow Mourn Choir. So this one
womp, womp.
is 630 points. This is Lady Oleander, 10 Dread Scythe Heritons, 4 Banshees, 4 Banshees. You get a 6-up ward. In addition, you can retreat and still charge in the same turn. You ignore modifiers, positive and negative for save rolls, attacks, that blah, blah, blah. You're ethereal. Okay, got it.
Yep.
You're an ethereal Nighthawk unit. Check on that. And then Harvesters of Sorrow in the Battle Shock phase, enemy units cannot issue or receive commands while they're within 3 inches of any units in this regiment or renown. In addition, if you make an unmodified charge roll of 8+ for a unit in this regiment or renown, the strike first effect applies to that unit until the end of the turn. Which normally I would be pretty hot on. The difference is it's real hard to remove the Morghast. It is not real hard to remove 4 Banshees or 10 Dread Scythe Heritons. This is the issue. And even with strike first, most things will live through that and then crack them back and like, okay, that's it. And obviously, Heritons are normally valuable when you're making them cut off ward saves. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. No, that's true. What I would say is that I'm not as hot on like if you'll remember, Heritons do debuff to wound, right? Like they do bring a wound debuff with them. And honestly, if we didn't have primal dice, I would be like way more hot on Banshees. Because it provides a potential solution to things like the Croaknado and stuff like that, because it's a bite at those additional above and beyond unbinds. To shut the spell off completely, which is an interesting, if it's hitting any of the units in that range. And so I would be way more interested in this as a supplementary set of units if we were not in Primal Dice World.
Sure. No, that's fair.
Because the Spell Eater ability of the Banshees is just friendly units nearby. So like that spell eating works for no matter who you would bring this army into. And Olander has some decent mortal wounds, right? Like she can do some more wounds. So I don't hate her that as a tool for her. Yeah.
I just don't know, what do you put this in? Like what army wants this, Tom? That's my question.
Zombies.
I don't know, man. I don't think I want to dilute my Soul Blight with this. Like, I'm not sure what I'm getting. I'd rather have more summonable units I can call back if I'm not going to get something hardcore that they can I can picture the OBR one, because those ridiculous monsters sitting in the middle of a wall of resummonable flesh, making it so basically all the objectives are just capture proof to many enemies.
Yep.
Is pretty strong. These girls, I like. Okay, I
Well,
didn't need
so
the commands.
the irony being like the gas here, it can actually just be purchased for 180 points as allies. Just
Sure.
buy you like just buy add 2 units of Banshees. That's the thing that's interesting to me. The like Olander is fine. I don't know that she's really bringing anything to another army. Although, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, let me double check this real quick. I can
Sure.
actually think of a use of her.
Okay.
Let me verify this. Yep. Oh, nope. Never mind. What I was going to say is her grief-stricken spell was like a -1/+1 to hit. And if it was a generic +1 to hit, I was going to say it could be a wonderful boon in FEC, who's like
Sure.
on 4 pluses
Who
to
have a
hit.
lot of 4+, yeah.
Yep. And so I was like, maybe her +1 to hit spell could actually solve that problem. But it only affects Night Haunt you.
Right. Right.
The +1 to hit. And in light of
Womp
that, it's
womp.
trash. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the loser. I really do.
Yeah, funny, Night Haunt not doing so well. Adding Night Haunt into another army, still not doing so well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not complicated, right?
And
So,
her War Master obviously doesn't function if you add her to uh other death armies either.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, well, there you go. And that's like all the rules. That's them's the rules. I think it's a pretty fun, wacky army of renown. It's kind of honestly, it's the kind of armies of renown I'd like to see. Like I just kind of like stuff like that. I I think that armies of renown that let you go in really weird directions and play really strange games with your army construction are like the point of that thing more than anything else. So
just can I answer a question real quick?
yeah,
Alan
yeah.
Wesley said, but you can't bring extra allies with. I understand that. My point is, don't bring this
Don't
regiment.
get this. Yeah, just bring the
just
two.
take Banshees
Yeah.
as allies.
Right.
Right. Just spend 180 points of allies, and you get the most of the gas that's out of this.
Right.
Without the additional 400 points of trash.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Good clarification. Okay, good. Well, there you go, everybody. Hey, that's Dawnbringers 4. A story of a slow continued death march into pointlessness for our protagonists as we meet some wacky characters along the way in the vast wastelands that are apparently teeming with random allies we keep bumping into. And a really cool Triumph and Treachery section and some interesting options in the rules that I think we will see people utilizing for sure. So this will be real interesting to see people like I'm gonna be watching. Do people try these things out? There we go. Branu said, I feel we still need Tom's more general opinion on FEC. All right, Tom, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes here at the end. Give me your general opinion on FEC right now.
Can I make an observation before I go into general opinion on that?
Sure.
The Night Haunt one was 630.
630, yeah, correct.
Funny story where OBR was gaining a free 250 point unit.
Yeah, sure.
You're paying more. You're paying 30 points more for the regiment than it would be to buy these individual units out.
Huh.
These units added up are 600 points, and it's 630 for the regiment.
Well, that feels weird. Okay.
Good so stuff. It feels like a miss.
Yeah, that definitely feels like a miss.
Like this regiment should be 450 points, right. Not 630, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Yeah, let's talk about generic FEC. What I'll say is this. I think it's really strong. I think that there's a lot of good options. Right now, I think that particularly the Arch region is maybe a little bit undercosted as it currently exists. But I think that it is an amazingly versatile army that if you don't remove pieces strategically and in the order that they need to be removed, you're going to end up like fighting a losing battle against just bodies as they put things back on the table.
Sure.
I've ran this in 2 events already. Both of the events had cleared me using the new book ahead of time. I didn't use models that hadn't been released. I take that back. I did use one model that hadn't been released. I used Goremain in my one-dayer. I did a one-day RTT, 14, 15, or 14 people, I think. And I won that with my FEC, 2,000 points. And then Vince and I went to Holy Wars in a doubles event, took 1,000 points. I think we had a 500 point sideboard, and we took second. So I think FEC is really strong. I think Usharon is an interesting piece. Depending on where points go, I think that it is going to be quite. It's very possible to run armies without him, is what I would say.
Sure.
About the noble deeds point handbrake.
Like just noble deeds in general. I think on your abhorrence, it's usually pretty easy to get them through either casting or praying or sitting in the chair. Yep. And I think on your courtiers, it's often really hard to get them because they just don't make points very easily.
It was one of the things that I warned people about, like when everybody is losing their mind about like, like the general taskmaster, you're going to be putting tons of units, tons of models back into units, and not fully. The challenge that you have is that earning points on courtiers is actually like remarkably difficult. True. Unless you're using either the horror hero or the Vargulf. If the Vargulf is going into its optimum,
if he can find the right targets, he can get him. He can get himself to 6 pretty fast.
Yeah, if he finds the right targets, he'll auto 6. And actually, the horror hero reliably gets to 6 for me. Sure. He's a 5 attack hero. If 2 of those attacks wound, he jumps immediately to 6.
Right.
And so he's a wonderful. Like I ran him in my one-dayer list, and I loved him. I loved him, because the crypt flayers are wonderful delivery tools for him. Initially, I wasn't as warm on crypt flayers until I ran a big pack of 6 of them at the Holy Wars, and they could do some work. I mean, Vince, you got to basically play alongside him for 2 days. What were your thoughts on FEC? Just watching him in action.
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, certainly if the Crypt Flayer Courtier manages to pull off his kill and turns on their 2 damage, they become like way scarier. Though, as we saw in multiple games, that is sometimes tough to pull off just because you don't have the targets he can actually kill with his little 4 shooting attacks.
Yep.
It ends up incentivizing you to use like your all-out attack in a weird way because you end up using it on the 4 attacks just to try to pray to get 1 wound through because mathematically it does work out better. But you weren't dumping a bunch to refill models. You were generally, though, able to recall units off your abhorrent if you needed to.
Always. Yeah. And actually for the RTT, that's what I found more than anything. Like I ran and just literally like he lived on the throne. Like I deployed him on that throne at the beginning of the game in my 2,000 point games, and he never moved. He never moved. He never did anything. He just sat on that throne. And because like he was never a threat, he was way out of the way. So in order to go after him, you'd have to commit to him. And in general, there was no actual like tactical play for that because of where I would often put the throne. And that wasn't my grand strat. So there was just never any like reason to really chase him down. And so the consequence was I always had him by generally turn 3. He was always on 6 deed points and ready to bring a unit back. So I always had a unit ready to be brought back by turn 3. Without worrying about anybody else's point investitures, which was like a huge boon. I mean, what I would say is, Brenu, it's the feeding frenzy is fine. What to me was the bigger deal is the 4+ to hit. Like having a bunch of your units all on 4+ is like really crippling. Like it's really, really difficult for that arm. And so it's something that I don't like. I think that the army against some matchups, especially that can like broadcast large auras of -1 to hit, I think it's going to be a problem. Like I think FEC will struggle to punch through those armies.
Sure.
That said, throwing a fully buffed horror unit at I feel confident just throwing a fully buffed horror unit at anything. Like I threw a fully buffed horror unit at a broad at the top of 1, and with his full wards and everything, and they tore it down. Like they were supplemented from some mortal wounds from some Morbeg that came in, right? But they put Broad in the Ground at the top of one. So
Sure.
I really, really like Horrors right now where they're at. And so, but that's really swingy if I'm depending on rolling ones and wait and letting, again, anyways, 50 approximately against 4+ save, that unit will do 56 to 58 damage.
Nice.
And so it's fairly reliable. Yeah. Uh, that's how I feel about FEC. I think it's strong. I think it's not broken. I think it definitely has some counters. I'm interested to see some potential Gristle Gore lists when points inevitably come down on the monsters, because they definitely need to come down on the monsters.
Sure.
They're 50 or more points over costed right now. So when that happens, I think that there could be some interesting lists that we'll see out there in the meta. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice. Very good. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Hey, if you haven't hit like yet, make sure you do that before you head out. Hit like, hit subscribe, do things that make dings become probably 20% cooler. If you want to support the show, lots of ways you can do it. There's links down there for purchasing your hobby stuff through Amazon, picking up your some new paints from Monument, anything like that. All those links are down there. There's a merch store down there. You can have Tom's little sprite on your shirt and walk around repping Team Tom. Yeah, go for it. But of course, there's also our Patreon focused on hobby review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. But as always, you can just share this. You can just hit those things. That's all free, and we appreciate you watching. So, thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate it. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.